But it's an important story. It's all about whether the authorities are treating very serious things as they should. Last week, we heard how a woman from Doncaster was found not guilty of 7 charges relating to indecent images of children. Joanne Mjadzelics was accused of sharing images of children with the singer from the band Lost Prophets. He's called Ian Watkins. Well, he's now in jail for 35 years for a string of child sex offences. Joanne said she repeatedly reported her concerns about Watkins to the police and to social services. I've been speaking to Joanne to hear her story for the first time, and she started by telling me how she met Ian Watkins.
It was just because I wanted to see a band live. I'd not seen a band live, and their MySpace page was claiming to be brilliant, fantastic, live, you know, the best band live, won awards and everything. I thought, oh, that's the band to see. So I messaged the band asking if they had any gigs nearby. We exchanged a few messages. He put me on the guest list for a show, and that's how we met before the show.
And you then that progressed to a full-on relationship?
No, not really. I never called myself his girlfriend. It was just a casual relationship. I was one of many.
Yeah.
So, we saw each other whenever he was in the UK, or I would go to Los Angeles to see him.
And how was that relationship? How was he at first? Did you...
Oh, charming.
Was he?
Completely charming. Told you exactly what you wanted to hear. You believed it. Funny and intelligent. I fell for him because he was funny and intelligent. And you know what? People call me a groupie, but I only ever went to that one gig. I saw him as the nice, caring guy that took care of his mother, paid the family's bills. Complete shock when that all turned around.
And tell us how it did turn around. Tell us how this story played out from your point of view.
About a year after we met is when he first began talking about having sex with underage fans, 14-year-olds. I would tell him to stop talking about it, and he would say, I'm only joking. And then the next thing, he would, the age would get lower, and he'd say that he'd want to have sex with an 11-year-old. I'd tell him, don't say that, it upsets me. And he would say again, I'm only joking. But then got to the point where he started talking about a girl, very worrying. She was 4 years old at the time, and I had to report that. I've said this in court, I've said this numerous times, that I was a cocaine addict at the time. So it didn't really sink in until after I stopped taking the cocaine a couple of months after, and I started to remember things, and I thought, oh my God, I've got to do something about this.
So he told you that he'd had sex with a 4-year-old?
No.
Right.
He would say very inappropriate things about what he wanted to do to this 4-year-old. And he also sent pictures of this 4-year-old with cocaine, in possession of cocaine, as if depicting that she had was going to take that cocaine.
When did you tell people about this?
2008.
And who was it that you told? Who did you report this to?
First of all, Child Services
in
South Wales. And then they passed it on to the police, so I spoke to the police, but it took the police 3 months to take my statement. So in that time, he'd hidden everything.
What happened then? So you made the allegation, nothing had been done. This is 2008. What
walked away for 2 years.
Yeah.
I walked away from him. Didn't look back. Didn't look him up on Google. Didn't know what he was up to at all because I didn't care. 2 years later, I was starting a relationship with someone else in Los Angeles. So I thought, whatever bridges I've got to mend in the UK, I'm going to do it before I go. And I stupidly thought I must have got it right. It must have just been coke talk. He must have been lying, because if the police have done nothing, then I must have got it wrong. Doubting myself, I apologised to him. This is 2 years after I reported him. I apologised to him. He accepts my apology. It's as if there's never been any time passed between us. It's as if we saw each other yesterday. He's wanting to see me. I don't want to see him. I go to Los Angeles. I come back. It doesn't work out. I come back. And I see him on 2 occasions then in 2010. On the second occasion, he starts playing in the hotel room. He opens up his laptop and starts playing a video of a young girl being raped. I turn away and I look at him, and he's just got this. He's looking at me, and in his eyes, he's looking with delight. And one corner of his mouth is turned up like a smirk, like an evil smirk. And he's just looking at me, and I could feel the tears in my eyes, and they started to run down my face. And I just said, "What time does the band tour bus have to go? He said 4 a.m. I went, you're going now. And I rang the receptionist and got him a taxi and got him the hell out of my room. In that moment, I think, I can't react the way that I have been, because running to the police and him hiding in the evidence hasn't worked before. I thought, me running to the police, I've seen a video on his computer, he's just going to hide his computer again like he did the last time. I'm going to go to the police, they're going to threaten me with harassment again. He's just going to get away with it. What can I do? So my instinct was just to run away and get away and not do anything, but it played in my mind. And then when he contacted me out of the blue 9 months later and he sends this image, I think, oh my God, I've got to change. I've got to change, because crying isn't going to do anything. Running to the police hasn't done anything. So I played him. I was an escort, and the job of an escort is you switch off. You become a different character. It was Nikki, not Joanne. It was Nikki playing a character. Whatever the client wants, you switch off, give them what they want. So I did that. I switched off, and I've never met anyone as sick and twisted as that man. And I just had to switch off and respond in a way as if to keep him on side, because while I was keeping him on side, I thought I had control and I knew what he was up to. Me running away for months on end isn't going to stop him doing anything, so I thought I'd gain some sort of control by keeping an eye on him and playing along.
That's Joanne Mjadzelics from Doncaster, who was cleared last week of 7 charges relating to indecent images of children. The Police Complaints Commissioner now investigating several police forces, including South Yorkshire. That's the first part of her story. After 8, Joanne continues with what happened in court.
I always knew the truth. I always knew that as soon as I would get on the stand, then the truth would come out. I think the prosecution and the police thought that I would crumble and be a wreck, or I would just roll over and die and take it. Say, yeah, it's a fair cop. No, that was no way in hell going to happen.
We heard an hour ago how Joanne met Watkins and her claims that she repeatedly reported her concerns about the singer to police and social services. Joanne picks up the story when she was taken to court.
I always knew the truth. I always knew that as soon as I would get on the stand, then the truth would come out. I think the prosecution and the police thought that I would crumble and be a wreck, or I would just roll over and die and take it. Say, yeah, it's a fair cop. No, that was no way in hell going to happen. As soon as I got on the stand, I was naming everybody, and I've been consistent for years because I've always told the truth. I've always said, he sent me these images. I've always said that. I've gone knocking on numerous police doors to be hit in the face by a wall. I always knew the truth. And I thought that we were going to have police officers on the stand, but we didn't. There were no police officers on the stand. There was just one police officer who was nothing to do with protecting Watkins for years, and he was just reading out one of my police interviews.
Did you ever think that you might get convicted?
No.
You were fairly sure of that? You were very sure of that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it wasn't necessarily a relief when you got found not guilty, but you must have certainly been pleased.
It was relief because of the... It's completely broke me, this. I had to fund my own travel and accommodation in Cardiff, and meanwhile I have a son at home who's got no money for food. I'm having to borrow money from my sister to feed him, borrow money to feed the cats. It's completely destroyed me because I've not been able to work. Who's going to give someone a job who's got these charges over their head?
Well, we'll come back on to that. I mean, what you're saying is hugely serious, isn't it? I mean, very serious. You're saying that the police ignored a report of child rape and then destroyed evidence that you brought into them. I mean, this is ground-shaking stuff, isn't it?
Yeah. You can't believe it. You can't believe that it would go on, and you can't believe that they would even dare to do that to me after I've already got that police force and 2 others under investigation, but they did.
You see, it sounds hard to believe, and yet of course a jury did believe you. They listened to what you had to say, they considered it, and they thought that what you were saying was correct. What happens now?
I don't know. What I want to do, which is what I've been trying to do, but obviously I've not even been able to do voluntary work, I want to help rape victims, and because I've been an escort as well, I want to help sex workers, because there's nothing in Doncaster to help sex workers. The girls on the street, I want to see if there's a way that I can get them off the drugs, away from the pimps, and help them.
And what about the IPCC? What do you think is going to happen there? How's that going to play out with South Yorkshire Police?
I don't know. Every day of my trial, there was the IPCC investigator in court listening. And there was someone sat in the gallery from the Police Federation for South Yorkshire Police Federation. There was someone sat in there, obviously representing the officers that I'd named. I don't know what happens. We'll see.
Well, do you plan to take any action? You say it was a malicious prosecution, don't you?
Do you know, people have said, do you plan to sue the police? And then I think about all the people that have actually victims of miscarriage of justice, and they've been sat in prison for God knows how long. Some of them don't get a penny, do they? So I have to put it in perspective and think people have sat in prison unfairly accused. I have to put it in perspective, don't I?
Do you expect to be able to find work, or is being Joanne Mjadzelics going to follow you around for a while?
Well, I did actually have change. I did change my name by deed poll. Obviously, I couldn't sign the papers until after the court case because I had to go through court under this name. Yeah. But then people say, why should you? Why should you just stand proud and, why hide away? I don't know. As I say, what I really want to do, because this is why I became a special constable. Years ago, I was a special constable while I was still working for a bank, because when I was raped, I didn't have that support there. And I thought, I want to be a special constable and do the job of a police officer voluntarily because I care, because I want to help victims. I'm not doing it for the 22 grand starting wage as it was then. I'm doing it because I care. And I soon found out the job wasn't that. There was no room for caring, no room for sympathising with anyone. I was just there as an extra plod on the beat, basically.
So, obviously, it's been traumatic times. When does the IPCC expect to come to a verdict? When do you get away from it all?
I don't know. Well, they have done quite a lot of work, because every month I get an update.
Yeah.
I get a letter every month with an update as to who they've interviewed, how many more interviews they expect to do. But, there's only 8 officers being interviewed and served notices, disciplinary notices. But in total, I dealt with about 14, personally. But then I've been told that there's all the senior officers who are responsible, like the line manager and the senior officers who are responsible for making these decisions. The ones that I didn't even speak to. So why haven't they been served any notices or anything? It seemed to me like, and this is exactly what my QC said, my prosecution was a cover-up of a cover-up. They thought if they discredit me, get rid of me, it goes away. Yeah. And it didn't. It backfired. It's
certainly not going to go away. Joanne Mjadzelics, thank you very much for coming in this morning.
Thank you.
Well, the police watchdog, the IPCC, is investigating South Yorkshire, Bedfordshire and South Wales police forces over their handlings of allegations made about Watkins between 2008 and 2012. Notices of gross misconduct have been served on a total of 8 police officers, including 3 constables from South Yorkshire.